Have you ever awakened with a weight in your chest that had no name, only the echo of a quiet, aching lack? Not the kind you speak of in daylight, but the kind that hums beneath the surface when all is still. A feeling that no matter how hard you try, something keeps slipping through your hands, like sand, like time, like worth. Have you felt the subtle shame of wanting more, yet fearing what that more might make of you? A silent belief passed down like an heirloom, that money and spirit are strangers, that to seek one is to betray the other. You've meditated, given, released. But still, abundance dances just outside your reach, like a melody only half remembered. Maybe you've blamed the world. Or maybe you've blamed yourself. But what if the truth is gentler than that? What if your longing isn't greed, but a sacred remembering? What if wealth was never meant to corrupt, but to serve? To nourish not just the body, but the soul's quiet yearning to give, to create, to heal without fear? This is where our story begins, not with answers, but with a fracture. A place where resistance lives, not in the world, but within. And her name is Ava. A yoga teacher once lit by purpose, now moving through the motions with a soft, invisible exhaustion. She speaks mantras to others while her own voice trembles with doubt. Raised to believe that wanting money was shallow, she built a life of simplicity. But beneath that calm exterior lives a storm, missed opportunities, unspoken dreams, and the deep ache of unlived generosity. She doesn't know it yet, but her awakening will unfold in whispers, not thunder. It will begin when a stranger in saffron robes leaves a folded scrap of paper at the foot of her mat, then vanishes. On it, 5 handwritten affirmations. Not lessons. Not rules. But seeds. She would one day realize, these 5 phrases were not just affirmations, they were keys. And each morning they would reshape not just her thoughts, but her entire sense of what it means to be abundant. This is her journey. But it may also be yours. Welcome to Zen Companion, where stillness speaks and stories heal. If something in you stirred, even slightly, subscribe and walk this path with us. There is more waiting than you've dared to hope for. The paper was thin, almost translucent, and smelled faintly of incense and old earth. Ava held it as if it might dissolve in her hands, unsure whether to laugh or weep. The 5 lines were handwritten in a looping, unfamiliar script. Simple words. Gentle. Yet, they stirred something ancient in her chest. She read them once. Then again. And again. Each repetition felt like a bell being struck in a distant part of her spirit. Still, she resisted believing it mattered. After all, she had seen so many affirmations, pinned on walls, sung in classes, painted on mugs. What made these different? She tucked the paper into her journal and told herself it was nothing. Coincidence. A strange act of kindness from a wandering monk. But deep inside, a part of her had already shifted, the part she had silenced for years. That evening, while folding towels after class, she felt a quiet unease. Not discomfort, but a presence. Like being watched by the past. The voice of her mother echoed from memory. Wanting too much is dangerous. Be grateful for what you have, or life will take it away. Ava had built her life around that idea. She kept her needs small, her dreams quieter than her breath. She thought it made her wise. But now, she wondered if it had simply made her invisible, to herself, and to life. She sat in the empty studio, moonlight spilling across the wooden floor. Something called her to take the paper out again. But this time, not to read it. To listen. Not to the words, but to the silence between them. It was then she noticed, the studio bell, usually still, was swaying gently. There was no breeze. No movement. Just a subtle rhythm, as if something unseen had entered. And in that moment, the paper pulsed with a warmth that startled her. The first line shimmered faintly in the moonlight, as if daring her to speak it aloud. This was no accident. This was a call. And whether she was ready or not, it had already begun. Ava didn't speak the words. Not that night. Not the next morning. She carried the folded paper with her like a relic, tucked in her bag, pressed against her chest, never far, yet never fully opened again. She told herself it was silly. She had responsibilities. Students. Rent. Groceries. What difference could 5 phrases make against the noise of real life? And yet, every morning, as she lit the incense before her first class, her hand hovered near her journal. Every time, she hesitated. Not out of forgetfulness, but fear. Because to speak them would mean, something had changed. And change meant the life she had so carefully managed, the careful simplicity, the humble restraint, might begin to crack. Her mind whispered doubts dressed as logic. Money distorts. You've seen what it does to people. You're spiritual. You don't need wealth. Stay small. It's safer. But beneath those thoughts was something quieter. A hunger she hadn't fed in years. On the third morning, just before sunrise, Ava woke with a tightness in her chest. Not pain, just fullness. Like a dam close to breaking. She walked barefoot to the small garden behind her building. The dew kissed her feet. The city was still asleep. She took the paper from her pocket and opened it. One phrase caught her eye. I am a vessel through which abundance flows freely. She didn't speak it. Not yet. But she closed her eyes and placed the paper gently on the grass. Then she bowed once. Twice. A third time, forehead nearly touching earth. It wasn't a ritual. Not yet. It was a gesture, of willingness, of quiet resistance softening into trust. Sometimes, the path begins not with action, but with the courage to stand still. And stay. He returned on the 7th morning. Not with words. Not with explanation. Just silence, and eyes that had seen more than Ava could begin to imagine. She had just finished teaching the early class. The students filed out, their mats rolled under arms, their voices hushed with the weight of stillness. And there he stood again, by the doorway, hands clasped loosely, robes worn and dusted with the color of red clay and wind. Ava froze. The paper was in her pocket. The affirmations had become something like a prayer she didn't yet believe in, but couldn't let go of. She hadn't told anyone. Hadn't dared. And yet, here he was. As if called by the quiet longing she thought no one could hear. He walked past her, into the studio, and sat cross-legged where the sun touched the floor. From a small pouch at his side, he drew 5 smooth stones, each marked with a single symbol. He placed them in a circle and closed his eyes. Ava didn't ask why. She didn't need to. She joined him in silence, heart trembling. And as the morning light warmed the floor between them, she felt something loosen inside her chest. Stillness became a language. The breath between them, a bridge. And in that shared silence, the 5 affirmations rose inside her like a tide, unspoken, but alive. She didn't speak to the monk. He never opened his mouth. But when he finally stood to leave, he placed one of the stones in her palm. A symbol carved by time, held by strangers, offered like a key. She clutched it to her heart. Share this light with a heart seeking truth. Ava waited until dawn the next day. Not because she was afraid, but because she wanted the world to be still. When she finally spoke the words aloud, the stone the monk had given her rested on her palm, its carved symbol warm from her skin. She sat beneath the old jacaranda tree in the garden, where fallen blossoms painted the ground in lavender sorrow. A single candle flickered beside her, its flame dancing with her breath. She had prepared the space without knowing why. Folding a soft cloth over the earth, placing a bowl of water beside her to reflect the sky, and setting the paper carefully in front of her like a sacred text. This time, she didn't just read. She spoke. I am a vessel through which abundance flows freely. The words caught in her throat. Not because they were foreign, but because they felt dangerously true. She paused, felt the vibration of the phrase in her body. Then she lit a second candle and whispered the second line. Each affirmation was like unlocking a door she had built herself. Not to keep the world out, but to keep her light in. As she spoke the 5th and final line, a breeze moved through the branches. The candle flames tilted, then stood tall again. And Ava wept. Not out of grief, but from the sheer relief of remembering that she was allowed to want, to ask, to open. Before leaving the garden, she knelt. She dipped her fingers into the bowl of water, and gently touched her forehead, her lips, her heart. It wasn't ritual. It was memory. The beginning of a sacred practice. A vow whispered into the silence. She didn't feel different. Not yet. But something had shifted in the soil beneath her life. As if the roots had finally begun to turn toward the sun. The days that followed carried a quiet tension. Ava's mornings were now stitched with whispered affirmations and gentle gestures. But the world beyond the garden felt heavier, more complex. Old doubts crept back like unwelcome visitors, settling into the corners of her mind. Her students noticed a subtle change. Some whispered of newfound brightness in her eyes. Others asked if she was losing herself. Friends called with concerns masked as care, reminding her of the realities outside the studio, bills to pay, expectations to meet, the necessity of compromise. The biggest trial was Ava herself. Each time she caught herself daydreaming about abundance, a voice inside hissed warnings. Don't get carried away. You're not meant to have more. Who do you think you are? Wealth corrupts. Stay small. She found herself at the crossroads of fear and hope. Pulled between the security of familiar scarcity and the fragile promise of something new. One afternoon, as rain tapped against the studio windows, Ava met with her closest ally, a fellow teacher named Marcus. He listened quietly as she confessed her fears. The weight of old beliefs tangled with her growing yearning. You've started something, he said softly. But you're not walking alone. Ava nodded, grateful for his presence, yet aware that the real battle was within. That evening, before sleep claimed her, she retrieved the stone from the monk, its surface cool, its symbol faintly glowing in the dim light. She traced the carving with trembling fingers, silently asking for strength. Though the path was uncertain, Ava understood one truth. The journey toward abundance was not a straight road, but a winding trail lined with shadows and light. Friends and doubts, obstacles both inside and out. In surrendering to the unknown, she was learning to carry her fear like a lantern. Not to be blinded by it, but to let it illuminate the next step. As weeks passed, the subtle resistance inside Ava grew louder, more insistent. Her mornings of affirmation became battlegrounds where hope and fear clashed in silence. Some days, the words felt like fragile wings, others, like chains tightening around her chest. She found herself questioning everything she once believed. Was she betraying her values by wanting more? Had she been foolish to believe that abundance could coexist with her spiritual path? Ava's dreams began to shift, no longer the peaceful meditation scenes she was used to, but restless images of empty rooms and locked doors. She woke drenched in sweat, her heart pounding with the weight of unspoken longing and unacknowledged guilt. One evening, after a long day of teaching, Ava sat alone in the garden under the jacaranda tree, now bare of blossoms. The silence felt thick, almost unbearable. Her hands clenched tightly around the stone the monk had given her, as if it were the only anchor to a reality slipping away. She whispered the affirmations again, but the words came out hollow, more like questions than declarations. The ache inside her deepened, a reminder that transformation is never painless. It is the tearing down of walls, the shattering of illusions, the confrontation with the parts of ourselves we'd rather leave hidden. And yet, beneath the storm, something flickered, an ember of determination, fragile but unextinguished. Ava knew this was the moment before the dawn. When the soul is tested not by comfort, but by the courage to face its own darkness. She closed her eyes, breathed deeply, and allowed the silence to hold her. Share this light with a heart seeking truth. That night, the storm within Ava reached its crescendo. Sleep fled, leaving her alone with a torrent of doubts and fears. She felt the old beliefs crashing like waves against the fragile shore of her newfound hope. Voices accusing her of selfishness, of spiritual failure, of betrayal. But beneath the roar, a quiet voice whispered, softer than before, yet unwavering. It called her not to fight, but to surrender. In the early hours, Ava rose and moved silently to the garden. The jacaranda tree stood bare, its branches reaching into a sky slowly paling with dawn. She lit a single candle, its flame trembling in the cool air. In her hands, she held the stone, the symbol now glowing faintly, as if alive. She sat barefoot on the earth, tracing the carved lines with fingertips that shook. With eyes closed, she breathed deeply and spoke the affirmations aloud, each word breaking through the barriers she had built around her heart. Tears fell freely, carrying away the weight of guilt, fear, and resistance. In this breaking open, Ava felt something shift, not a sudden transformation, but a profound letting go. She was no longer fighting the darkness. She was inviting light to flood in, even if only in small, uncertain streams. The garden held her gently, the candle flame steady, the dawn unfolding like a promise. In that sacred space between surrender and hope, Ava found the courage to begin again. Share this light with a heart seeking truth. In the days that followed her breaking open, Ava felt herself slowly shifting, like a tree awakening after a long winter. The edges of her resistance softened, and the affirmations began to settle into her bones, no longer foreign phrases but whispered truths. She found herself sitting quietly beneath the jacaranda, candlelight flickering against the night sky. This time, she traced sacred symbols she had drawn in the soil, letting the earth absorb her fears and hopes alike. With each breath, she felt a gentle integration taking root, a harmony weaving together the parts of herself that once seemed at odds. Ava no longer saw abundance as a distant dream or a source of guilt. It became a current flowing through her daily life. In the way she greeted her students, in the way she prepared her meals, in the way she paused to watch the slow dance of leaves in the breeze. She practiced sitting with her doubts without judgment, allowing them to teach rather than control. Each morning, she offered a whispered prayer to the light, imagining it filling every corner of her being, healing old wounds and lighting new paths. The stone from the monk rested beside her journal, a quiet reminder of the journey unfolding. She began to write, thoughts, fears, and dreams mingling on the pages like a sacred dialogue. Though challenges remained, Ava sensed a growing inner alignment, a balance between yearning and acceptance, courage and patience. She understood that transformation was not a destination but a living, breathing process. A sacred dance between shadow and light, surrender and strength. And in this unfolding, Ava found a peace that was neither forced nor fleeting, but deep and abiding. The quiet power of a soul coming home. Let this peace settle softly in your heart, and share this light with a heart seeking truth. Ava's inner transformation was real, yet the world beyond her sanctuary awaited its test. One afternoon, a chance arose, an invitation to lead a large wellness retreat, a prestigious event promising both recognition and financial reward. The offer stirred excitement, but beneath it lay a shadow of fear. Could she claim abundance without losing herself? Would stepping into this new role mean betraying the quiet path she had carved? The old limiting beliefs whispered once again. You're not worthy of success. Money will change you, make you less spiritual. Better to remain small and safe. Before the event, Ava returned to the garden one last time. She lit a delicate candle, its flame steady in the soft breeze. With reverence, she placed coins in the soil beneath the jacaranda, a silent offering to the unseen forces guiding her. She breathed deeply and spoke the affirmations, feeling each word ripple through her body, an armor of intention woven from newfound strength and vulnerability. At the retreat, Ava faced moments of doubt and distraction, the pressure of expectations pressing on her shoulders. But each time uncertainty arose, she remembered the morning prayers, the stone's quiet weight in her palm, the garden's sacred embrace. She moved with grace, teaching, listening, giving, her voice steady and filled with presence. And in that giving, she discovered something profound. Abundance was not a thief of spirit, but its companion. A flowing river inviting her to swim deeper, not away. The trial was not victory or defeat, but the courage to stand fully in her truth. May your own courage be kindled, and share this light with a heart seeking truth. Ava returned from the retreat carrying something new. Not trophies or applause, but a still, radiant knowing. She embodied a truth once whispered only in the silence between affirmations. That abundance and spirituality are not enemies, but intertwined threads of the same sacred fabric. Her mornings no longer began with hesitation, but with a soft ritual, lighting a candle as dawn unfolded. Its flame a mirror to her breath and her steady heart. She traced sacred symbols in sand or earth, feeling each gesture root her deeper in the present, in the harmony of giving and receiving. Her doubt had not vanished, but it no longer held dominion. Instead, it became a quiet companion, a shadow softening in the warmth of her acceptance. Ava's life unfolded with new rhythms, a dance between stillness and flow. between the wisdom of restraint and the joy of opening wide. She was no longer the teacher who whispered mantras for others, but a woman who lived her truth fully, inviting abundance to nourish her spirit and those around her. In the mirror, she saw not a vessel emptied by fear, but a wellspring overflowing with grace. The stone, worn smooth by her touch, rested on her altar, a symbol of the journey from resistance to resurrection. She had become the quiet embodiment of a new truth, that wealth, when held with mindfulness and compassion, can be a sacred offering to life itself. Let this truth rise within you like dawn's first light, and share this light with a heart seeking truth. Ava stepped back into the rhythm of everyday life, carrying the quiet power of her transformation like a secret song beneath her skin. Her days no longer felt divided between lack and longing, but woven with a gentle abundance, seen in the smile of a student, the warmth of sunlight on her skin, the steady pulse of her own breath. She continued her sacred morning practice, lighting candles and tracing symbols in the earth, each gesture a whisper of gratitude and intention. Her affirmations were no longer words to conjure fortune, but prayers that nurtured her soul's deep connection to generosity, courage, and presence. With every step, Ava shared her journey, not through sermons or demands, but through the quiet radiance of one who has found peace within the dance of wealth and spirit. Her story became a gift to those still caught in the shadows of fear and doubt, a reminder that transformation is possible, even when the path is uncertain. And now, dear traveler, if these whispers have stirred your heart, let your light shine by joining this circle of seekers. Subscribe to walk the path together. Like this story to honor the courage it takes. And share your voice in the comments. For your story may be the very gift another soul needs today. In the sacred balance of giving and receiving, may you find your own abundance. And may your journey be gentle, brave, and full of unexpected grace.